Hello and welcome. My name is Katie Walker. I'm an EFT trainer, practitioner and mentor, and I am here with Tapping Tips Tuesday. So today I'm going to look at how we can use EFT for a future situation. So we can work on stuff that has happened in the past and how it makes us feel now when we think about it. And we can also work on things that are going to happen in the future potentially and how that makes us feel here and now thinking about it. This can be used on so many things. So it can be used on hard conversations that might be coming up, public speaking events that might be happening, events that you're going to that make you feel anxious, nervous, scared, worried. You can work on food, thinking about eating a particular food or not eating a particular food, going without something, fears and phobias, pain. If you're thinking about waking up in the morning and feeling that you may feel pain, how does it make you feel here and now? So the example I'm going to give you is one that I had to actually work on last year. We have a beautiful garden and my husband called me out and showed me this grasshopper, which was the size of a dinosaur. In Australia, we have big insects. And I couldn't actually see it initially because it was in the tree and he had his hand out behind it. And all I could see was like the branches and the leaves, and it was that big that I couldn't even see it. But I crapped myself when I did see it, and I ran back inside, and I had to work on that very particular thing because I love my garden. I love being out in the garden, and the thought of that big old grasshopper really scared me. So I worked through all the different parts of that particular grasshopper. Fortunately, my husband took a photo of it. And so I was able to look at a picture and really narrow down what it was that was making me feel stressed, anxious, scared, all the different emotions that I felt. But the example I'm going to give you now is thinking about going back into the garden. So that was a problem for me in terms of I worked through being able to look at this photo and I wasn't getting the sensations I was getting and thinking about it, having got out there and being exposed to it there and then. But then it was going back out into the garden. How was that going to happen for me? How was I going to feel? And what happens if I did see this big old grasshopper, which I still haven't seen. So, but I am able to get out into the garden. So this is how I worked with it. So I want you to maybe think about something that's coming up in the future, something that you might want to avoid in the future, and just write down what is the emotion in the present that you're feeling thinking about that thing. So for the grasshopper being in my backyard, if I tune into that, I can tell you that I still feel a little bit of anxious feelings in my chest. So I'm going to rate anxious 0 to 10 because every time I do a round of tapping, I want to see, is that being reduced? So 0 to 10. If I think about going out into my garden and seeing that grasshopper, I feel anxious. And 0 to 10, it's 5, and I notice it in my chest. So here's what it would look like. Even though I feel anxious in my chest, thinking about going into my garden and seeing that grasshopper. And let me add a piece to it. Thinking about it jumping on me, I feel anxious. I still deeply and completely accept myself. And even though I feel anxious in my chest, just thinking about going into my garden, seeing that dinosaur of a grasshopper and it jumping on me, I feel anxious. I still deeply and completely accept myself. And even though I feel anxious in my chest, just imagining going out into my garden, seeing that grasshopper, that dinosaur grasshopper, and it jumping on me, I can still deeply and completely accept myself. So we say it 3 times. We state what it is that I'm thinking about in the future, going out into my garden. And then we say the acceptance statement, which is I deeply and completely accept myself. So even though there's this, I can still accept myself. And then we go to the top of the head and we just say the emotion, anxious, feeling anxious. Feeling anxious, feeling anxious, feeling anxious, feeling anxious, feeling anxious, feeling anxious. then I just come back to the side of the hand and I check in and I think, okay, imagine going out into the garden, seeing that big old dinosaur of a grasshopper and it jumping on me. How do I feel now? So it was a 5 out of 10. And I'm going to say there's probably still a 2 out of 10 of anxious feeling. So I would do another round and I would say exactly the same thing. I'd say, even though I still have this remaining anxious feeling in my chest, thinking about going out into the garden, seeing the grasshopper and it jumping on me, I still deeply and completely accept myself. Say it another 2 times, emotions anxious. If I go back to doing 1 round and I notice that anxious had moved to worried or scared, irritated, frustrated, anger, who knows what it could change to, I would just change that setup statement to that new emotion. I'd rate it again to see, as I'm doing the tapping, has it brought it down? Or it could change to it not jumping on me, but me just seeing it on the pavement. So just notice if anything changes in your mind's eye as you're thinking about that particular situation. And as I said, this can be used for anything and everything that's happening in the future to reduce how you feel about it now. So when it does happen, you will be in a calmer state. You'll be able to do what you need to do. I needed to go back out into my garden. It's my little sanctuary. I love it. And I'm also responsible for watering. And I don't want my plants to die. So I had to tap to be able to get myself out there. I was about to say get my butt out there, to get my butt out into the garden again. So it could be you thinking about, as I said, doing a presentation, having a hard conversation, doing something for the first time. You can tap on thinking about it before you do it, to allow for your body to come into that regulated state. So when you're in that position, you might respond very differently, and you'll allow yourself to be able to show up and do what you want to do. I want to water my garden. I want to be in my garden. I want to have a cup of tea in my garden. I don't want this big dinosaur grasshopper to stop me from getting myself out there. So just know that you can tap past events that still trigger you in the here and now, future that is triggering you in the here and now. So try it. If you want any assistance, please reach out. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you.